ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله الذي أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه سراجا منيرا. وقال الله تبارك وتعالى وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. وقال تعالى إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا لتؤمنوا بالله ورسوله وتعزروه وتوقروه. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن عبد الله بن جعفر قال دخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حائطا لرجل من الأنصار فإذا فيه جمل فلما رأى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حن إليه وضربت عيناه فقال من رب هذا الجمل؟ فجاء فتى من الأنصار فقال هو لي. فقال ألا تتق الله في هذه البهيمة التي ملكك الله إياها فإنه شكا إلى أنك تجيعه وتدأبه. Allah Ta'ala has blessed us with Iman. Iman is something that we cannot buy Iman. We cannot purchase Iman. We cannot put our name in a list before we are born with Iman. You know, in this world, some people, they look for that if their children can be chosen for a school. In this area, everybody wants to go to Nova High School or Middle School. And people lie. They show false addresses also to get into Nova. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But that's a choice, that we want our children to go to Nova because we think that if they only go to Nova, they will be successful, otherwise they will never be successful. These are some people have this type of mentality. But if their children only go to Harvard, they will be successful, otherwise any other university, they will not be successful. It's good. University, a top school. The top university cannot give you education. Education is when a person tries on their own. So you have the best professors in the world and you don't attend the college, you don't attend the university, or you don't listen to the lectures, you don't take notes, then you should not expect that you're going to get any good results by just having. Same way, Iman is something that needs to be acquired. Just because we are born in a Muslim family doesn't make us warithin of Jannah, inheritors of Jannah. Eventually, if we stay on Iman and we die on Iman, inshallah we will enter into Jannah. But we don't think about our world in that way. You know, we don't think of our life in this world that, okay, I'll just sit at home and do nothing and I will become a millionaire or a billionaire, or I will become a scientist, or I will become a doctor or engineer or something. Nobody will tell you that this is a good idea. If you want to become something, you have to strive for it. Similarly, if we want our Iman, and with Iman, we will have to strive for it. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says that those who strive in our path, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, we will surely guide them to our path. Allah will put them on the right path. And Allah is with those who do good, مَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Quran says in another ayah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. That O people who believe in Allah, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be with those who are sadiqeen, who are truthful. So, we in this world, we know that if we want something, then inshallah we will gain it. In Arabic there is a share where the shair says, مَا كُلُّ مَا يَتَمَنَّى الْمَرْءُ يُدْرِكُهُ مَا كُلُّ مَا يَتَمَنَّى الْمَرْءُ يُدْرِكُهُ تَجْرِي الرِّيَاحُ بِمَا لَا تَشْتَهِي السُّفُنُ. That whatever a person desires, he will get. مَا يَتَمَنَّى الْمَرْءُ يُدْرِكُهُ. Even though the ships, they sail against the wind. تَجْرِي الرِّيَاحُ بِمَا لَا تَشْتَهِي السُّفُنُ. Meaning that in the old times when they used to sail in sailing ships, they didn't sail against the wind, then nobody would have had come to the Americas. Nobody would have gone around the world. But they strove and they made their ships go against the wind. So today they're successful. So our success is in what? Our success is in believing in Allah and in the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Accepting what Allah says. Regardless if this comes into our intellect or not. If it comes into our intellect, it is good. If it doesn't, we still accept it. Because everything is not according to our intellect. Everything is not according to our intellect. Our intellect tells us something. Sometimes it's hard to believe. But that's what does difference. The ayat in the Quran, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ نُوحِيهِ إِلَيْكَ. That these are the information, the khabar of that which is ghaib, which is unseen. To Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We reveal this to you. And if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us about Anba'ul Ghaib, Amanna wa Saddaqna, then Sami'na wa Ata'na. We say we believe, Aman, and wa Saddaqna, and we have accepted. We are not like Bani Israel. Bani Israel, Surah Baqarah, the whole qissa is based on the cow. That وَإِذْ قَتَلْتُمْ نَفْسًا فَادَّارَأْتُمْ فِيهَا وَاللَّهُ مُخْرِجٌ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْتُمُونَ. That when somebody was murdered in Bani Israel, Musa alayhi salam, and they said to Musa alayhi salam, Ya Musa, we want to know who the murderer is. So Musa alayhi salam told them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you that you have to slaughter a cow. But Bani Israel, being Bani Israel, they started asking the age of the cow, the color of the cow, what was the cow's genes, and so on. So as the more questions they asked, قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر عوان من ذلك قالوا ادع لنا بيتهم ما لونها إن البقرة تشابه علينا وإنا إن شاء الله مهتدون. And so on the ayats came. They asked him for the color, they asked him for the age of the cow, they asked him. If they had just slaughtered a cow, the whole situation was resolved. But no. Allah didn't tell them that it has to be this color, it has to be this age, it has to be this, it has to be this. Allah just told them to cut a cow. But they didn't want the simple solution. They went into all the details. So then Allah started giving them details. If they had just listened to what the Nabi had said and not asked many questions, then they would have bought a cow for a few $100s and slaughtered it. But when they started asking questions, then from a few $100s, the cow went into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like some people think that in Qurbani, it's necessary to slaughter a cow which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. If Allah has given you what you want, then you can. But if this is the case, then Rasulullah would have done Qurbani of those type of animals, the most expensive. But Nabi didn't do that because he wanted easement for his ummah. So they asked many questions. So then they got the answer according to that. In our deen is easy. Deen is easy. Ad-deenu yusrun, or kama qala Islam says deen is easy. Do not make it harsh and hard upon yourselves. So that's the difference between Bani Israel and Ummah Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Bani Israel asked. Today I was teaching Hajj. So the hadith is that Hujju وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ وَمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. That's the ayat of the Quran. And those who have not done Hajj, Allah has made Hajj farad upon them when the conditions of Hajj come over them. So there was the companion of Rasulullah, he said, أَلِكُلِّ عَامٍ حَجْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Is it every year we have to do Hajj? Nabi asked this question 3 times. Nabi Sallallahu said once. And he said, if I had answered yes, Hajj would have become farz upon you every year. And then what would have happened? We can imagine. So, Allah has put deen easy. And where we don't understand, we accept. Like in this case, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith that is mentioned that Imam Ahmad had mentioned a man was grazing his sheep outside Medina. And a wolf attacked his sheep. Because that's nature, that's natural. The wolf will attack. So the man was doing what he does. He was trying to save his sheep or goat from the wolf. So the wolf said to him, أَلَا تَتَّقِ اللَّهِ أَلَا تَتَّقِ اللَّهِ تَحُولُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ رِزْقِي سَاقَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. He said, hey, away with you. This is my risk. Allah has appointed risk for me, this sheep. Move away. You and I would be astonished also. He said, الذئب يكلم بكلام الناس. This wolf talks the tongue of people, and he talks in language. The wolf said, and you want to know something more unique than this, more interesting than this? He said, yes. He said, go to Medina. Inna Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, ألا أحدث بأعجب من ذلك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بين الحرتين يحدث الناس بأنباء ما قد سبق. He said the Prophet has come and he is informing people of what happened in the past. What happened in the past. Once Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was sitting in the majlis and Abu Bakr and Umar were not there. Abu Bakr and Umar were not there, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was explaining something, and all of a sudden he said, the cow spoke. He spoke about some cow in the previous ummah. He said, she spoke, and I and Abu Bakr and Umar all believe in this. And Abu Bakr and Umar were not there. Medina, when he went to the Majlis of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he told him, he accepted Iman and Islam, and he told him that the reason I have come to you is that I have my sheep at such and such place, or goats, and I graze them, and today a wolf came by. So he had to do what he had to do, and I had to do what I had to do, that he's going to attack my sheep, and I'm going to try to kill him and guard my sheep. And then he spoke. He said to me that this is my risk Allah has given to me, go away. And he said, he told me that the more astonishing thing than my speaking to you is the Rasul is in Medina, and he's calling people towards Deen, and he's informing them of things that will happen in the future and in the past. So Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that 3 times, Sadaqa Sadaqa. ألا إنه من أشراط الساعة كلام السباع الإنس ويكلم الرجل شراك نعله وعضبة صوته ويخبره فخذه بما أحدث أهله من بعده. Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the wolf said the truth. Sadaqa, he said the truth. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, you want to know something more astonishing than that? That before the end of time, wild animals will talk to people. Kalam Siba. Wild, you know, sometimes you just browsing on the internet. Yesterday I was browsing, and I saw something that said, and the gorilla speaks. I didn't. The gorilla speaks. He doesn't speak our language, but he understands what his trainer is trying to train him, and she has somehow got many words that he understands. He can't speak it, but he understands. If you tell him to sit down, he sits down. If you tell him to stand up, he stands up. If you tell him to run, he runs. So they find this astonishing. What will happen to them when the actual gorilla does speak? It will speak, because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that. تَكَلَّمُ السِّبَاءُ النَّاسِ, that the wild animals will speak to the people. And you want to know, these are animate things. I mean, these are things that breathe, and those things will speak to us also, which are inanimate. The shoe that we wear, the laces on that shoe, that will speak to us. You want to know something more interesting than that? Quran says something more interesting than that. وَيَوْمَ يُحْشَرُ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّارِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا مَا جَاءُوهَا شَهِدَ عَلَيْهِمْ سَمْعُهُمْ وَأَبْصَارُهُم وَجُلُودُهُم بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. That on the day of judgment, Allah will drive people to Jahannam. وَيَوْمَ يُحْشَرُ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّارِ. Those who are His enemies, may Allah save us from them. May Allah make us from His mahbubeen. Brothers, I'm not asking for money, just say Ameen. Maybe Allah will make us from His mahbubeen. وَيَوْمَ يُحْشَرُ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّارِ. On that day when Allah will drive Allah towards Jahannam, and they will fall in, فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا مَا جَاءُوهَا شَهِدَ عَلَيْهِمْ. When they will come to Jahannam, شَهِدَ وَجُلُودُهُمْ, then their ears will speak, Allah says. In Surah Yasin, there is an ayat. If we read Yasin, we will know. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. That on that day Allah will seal our lips. Then our hands and feet will speak against us. Same in Surah Hamim Sajda, وَيَوْمَ يُحْشَرُ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّارِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ حَتَّى إِذَا مَا جَاءُوهَا شَهِدَ عَلَيْهِمْ سَمْعُهُمْ وَأَبْصَارُهُم. eyes will speak against them. Whatever is so wrong, قل للمؤمنين يغضوا من أبصارهم ويحفظوا فروجهم ذلك أزكى لهم. Allah told us that, O mu'mineen men, put your gaze down. If you put your gaze down, you will be mahfuz. Your lower areas will be mahfuz. وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُمْ. So on that day, our eyes will speak. And all the skin on our body will speak. And it will bear testimony against us. So how are we going to fare with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day? When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saying that this is before he dies, before he goes from this world. At the end of time, the thigh of a person will speak to him. وَفَخِذُهُ وَيُخْبِرُهُ فَخِذُهُ بِمَا أَحْدَثَ بَعْدَهُ أَهْلُهُ. Yani, what his household did, his thigh will tell him. My dear brothers, this is Iman bil Ghaib. That Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came as rahmah, as a mercy for the whole of the world, not only men and jinn. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came rahmah for the animals. That's why in a hadith it comes that there was once a camel in Medina. Somebody came running to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he complained. He said, there's a camel that gone mad. When a camel goes mad, you don't go near it. Because a camel can take your whole skull apart if it bites you. You know how subhanallah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts man in charge of all the animals. You know, when we slaughter a cow, especially at Eid time, how easy it becomes. But here they shoot it, which is wrong, 100%. But if you had looked after the animal, you had reared the animal, you had looked after it, you had fed it, and watered it, and so on, and then you took the animal for slaughter, you will feel inside yourself also that you are doing something which will hurt you because you have unsiya, you have connection to the animal. At that time, the animal doesn't run. It senses that it's going to be slaughtered, but it doesn't run. So this man who had this animal, this Sahabi of Rasulullah, he had this camel, he wanted to slaughter it. So this camel, it sensed it. So whoever came near it, it would bite. So they came to Rasulullah running and they said, Ya Rasulullah, this camel. So Nabi said, they said, don't go near it because it's attacking anybody and everybody. Nabi Kareem when he went near the camel came. It sat down. And it puts its head in the feet of Rasulullah. It puts its whole head, body in the feet of Rasulullah. And وَضَرَفَتْ عَيْنَاهُ, it started to cry. Animals have feelings also. It started to cry. When it started to cry, Rasulullah spoke to it. Then he said, bring its halter. They brought, he put it round its head, and then he told it to stand. And then he called the person who owned the camel. He said, who owns this camel? So one of the Ansar came up, he said, I own the camel. And this person said, it's complaining that you don't feed it properly. You take too much work from it, and now that it's old, you want to kill it for meat. He said, Ya Rasulullah, that's what my intention is. And Islam said, leave it. Feed it, and look after it. When it dies, it dies. So the Sahabi said, I will not kill. once Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in the desert. We don't hear this side of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Once Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in the desert, Salama al-Mu'mineen radiyallahu ta'ala anha, one of the wives of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, says that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam heard somebody call him Ya Nabi Allah. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was yet not Mursal Prophet, meaning that he didn't know that he was Prophet until he was 40 years old, when Jibreel came. But before that, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I used to hear, when I used to pass by these rocks and these mountains in Mecca, they used to say to me, Assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, Assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah. Then he said, I used to look around but I didn't see anybody. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told one of the Sahabis, I can show you the rock, it is still there today. It used to do salam to me. How many of us do salam to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam daily? Salat. How many of us send salutations upon him? Durood Sharif. Yeah, it's Rabi-ul-Awwal. We all profess our love for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But the only Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the only Nabi for Rabi-ul-Awwal. So Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, I used to hear the rocks doing salam. Now you and I cannot understand that. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took some pebbles and he asked the Sahaba, can you hear the pebbles saying, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar? So they heard it. Quran says, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ لَا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ لَا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُمْ. Everything does the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we cannot hear it. The rocks, these trees, they do tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The leaves on the trees, they do tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why when somebody dies and you plant a tree there or you plant a bush there, until that bush or tree stays, inshallah that person, if he is given azab, his azab will be mukhaffaf, yani his azab will be lessened. Or inshallah one day Allah will forgive his azab. These trees that we think are nothing, they make tasbih for us. There's many benefits, but we don't see it. So, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam held the tasbih, the beads, or the little pebbles in his hand. And Sahaba heard it. Then he gave it to Abu Bakr. The Sahaba heard it in the hands of Abu Bakr also. Then he gave it to Umar. The Sahaba heard it in the hands of Umar also. Then he gave it to Uthman. And when he went to Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu's hand, they could not hear it anymore. This was an ishara that Khilafat, ala minhaj nubuwah, is Hazrat Uthman and Hazrat Ali, and then after that will not be Khilafah ala minhaj nubuwah. Or the tasbih of these things. But we don't understand this. So when the camel spoke to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam heard the camel. In the desert, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is looking. What is speaking to me? Then he saw a deer or a gazelle which was tied. So the gazelle beckoned Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said, come close to me. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to the gazelle. This is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't need to go to the gazelle. The gazelle with the tree could come to him. The trees used to come to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is part of Iman. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once came to the Sahabi and he said that if you want, I will call those trees, they will come here. Will you accept Iman? He said, if that happens, I'll accept Iman. The person was not a Muslim at that time. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam called the trees. The Sahabi writes that I saw the ground split and the trees walked to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. To you and I, this cannot be true. But it is. Like tomorrow the sun will rise and tonight the moon will come out. More than that, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, whatever he said or he did, happen. Or whatever he said will happen in the future will happen. Doesn't matter if it comes to my intellect or your intellect. That's why Allah challenges us in the ayah. ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ نُوحِيهِ إِلَيْكَ. So the gazelle told Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that I have 2 babies, and this your Sahabi has captured me. I need to go and feed my babies. Once they are fed, I will come back and I will be tied here. You can tie me back. Rasulullah asked the gazelle, "You going to do that?" She said, "Yes." Nabi Sallallahu released her. She went to where her children were in the mountain. After a little while, she returned back. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he tied the gazelle. The Sahabi saw this. So he asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that, "Ya Rasulullah, do you want this gazelle as a gift?" Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Yes, gift me." So he gifted the gazelle to Rasulullah. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to the gazelle, "Go, you are free." So she went to a distance and then she said, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu annaka Muhammadan Rasulullah." Imam Suyuti rahimahullah has mentioned this in Khasa'is al-Kubra, and Imam Tabarani has mentioned this in Kabir. When the gazelle went, it went a little further, it said Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah in the tongue of people, wa annaka Muhammadan Rasulullah, and then it returned back to it. My dear brothers, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was rahmatul lil alameen, not only for people, for animals also, for what we could not understand. Allah gave him nubuwwat. Sulaiman alayhi salam used to talk to animals. Quran tells us. فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهَا وَقَالَ رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ وَعَلَى وَالِدَيَّ وَأَنْ أَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَاهُ وَأَدْخِلْنِي بِرَحْمَتِكَ فِي عِبَادِكَ الصَّالِحِينَ. قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون. There is a surah in the Quran called Surah Al-Namal. What Namal means? Ant. Allah mentioned the whole surah for one ant, for one verse. قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا. That all ants go back into your ant hills. يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده. That Sulaiman and his army does not crush you. So Sulaiman alayhi salam heard her. فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهَا. Sulaiman alayhi salam heard her and he smiled. And he even answered the ant, Quran says. وَقَالَ رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي. He said, "Don't worry, we will not crush you." And further on, Allah says, وَتَفَقَّدَ الطَّيْرَ فَقَالَ مَا لِيَ لَا أَرَى الْهُدْهُدْ أَمْ كَانَ مِنَ الْغَائِبِينَ. I cannot see hudhud. Hudhud is a whooping bird. It's not a very big bird, it's a small bird. But it used to bring information for Sulaiman. So Allah gave Sulaiman salam the ability to talk to the animals. Allah gave the same ability to Rasulullah. Wolves used to come and speak to him. Camels used to come and speak to him. Sheep and goats came and spoke to him. Gazelles came and spoke to him. What is wrong with us that we still don't say Salah upon the Muslim? We all profess that we love Rasulullah. That how many of us do our 5 times daily Salah, which Allah called him to the heavens to give. How many of us today did Fajr in the Masjid? If we did, Alhamdulillah. If we didn't, then we can change from today. It's never too late. There was a man in Bani Israel. He killed 99 people. And after murdering 99 people, he thought that I should change now. So when he went and met some Sufis. So he asked him, he said to him, "You killed 99? He said, "May you go to hell. May you go to Jannah." So he said, I'll complete the century. He killed him also. It comes in hadith, he killed him also. Then he had in his heart that I shouldn't have done that. So then somebody told him, at such and such place there is an alim, go to see him. So when he went there, he reached there. So the alim said, the only way you can come out of this is that you live in an environment where there is too much sin taking place. So move from there and go to such and such place. When you reach there, you will become a better person. And may Allah forgive you. So he came home and practiced things and he was on his way. It comes in hadith. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah has mentioned it also, Bukhari and Muslim has mentioned this hadith also, that when he was walking, Malakul Maut was told to go and take his life. Take his soul. So Malakul Maut came down. And Malakul Maut was seeing that this man was far from the journey where he was going and he was still nearer to his home. So Allah commanded the earth to do tayyul khalq. The earth shrunk. Nowadays scientists say it does happen. So the earth shrunk from one side. Two groups of angels came, one of Azab, one of Rahmah. The ones of Azab said he's more closer to his home, so we will take him to Jahannam. And the ones of Rahmah said no, he has already started his journey, we will take him to Jannah. So they complained to Allah. So Allah said, measure the distance. If he is nearer to his home, then you take him to Jahannam. If he is nearer to where he's going, his destination, then you take him to Jannah. So they started measuring. He was actually in hadith, he was actually nearer to home, but by the tip of his nose he became closer to where he was going. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Arhamur Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Arhamur Rahim. He wants to forgive us for a little excuse. If he can forgive a man who can kill 100 people and still forgive him, we haven't killed anybody, inshallah. May Allah never make us kill anybody. Keep us all away from murder. وما كان لمؤمن أن يقتل مؤمنا إلا خطأ ومن قتل مؤمنا خطأ فقطعه رقبة مؤمنة ومن يقتل مؤمنا متعمدا فجزاؤه جهنم خالدا فيها. The person who kills a Muslim deliberately, his jaza is Jahannam. If he doesn't make tawbah, Allah will put him in Jahannam forever. Khalidan. So these are some of the sins that Allah has mentioned in the Quran. But even then, Allah is ready to forgive us. So what is wrong with us that we don't ask Allah for forgiveness? So my dear brothers, let's ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Inshallah, the boxes are being passed. Please, those brothers in my left hand side room, you are part of the Masjid. And those brothers who are in that side room, you are part of the Masjid.
I have a question, sir. Sorry, please do not mind. It's 2:40 right now. So what is the exact time for the...
We start the Bayaan at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock? No, I'm asking about like the khutbah.
Yes, khutbah will start now.
2:40?
It will start now.
Okay. So every Jumu'ah is the same time?
Same.
Okay. I just want to know. Thank you so much.
So brothers, inshallah, pass the boxes. Jazakumullah. May Allah give you tawfiq and me also. Alhamdulillah, just to you that we are clearing the land in the back, the land that we bought. We still owe money to the people who took cars off. So inshallah, soon we're going to have a fundraiser for that also. Next month, the second week of November, on Saturday, we're going to have a barbecue for the Masjid. So that's the second Saturday of next month, not this month.